he told me she was just a friend. But the bright, glowing light of his phone screen at 2:00 a.m. told a completely different story. It is funny how a single moment, a split second of silence in the middle of the night, can shatter a life that took 10 years to build. My name is Claire, and for a long time, I thought I was living in a fairy tale. I thought I had the perfect marriage, the perfect home, and a partner who would never lie to me. But as I stood there in the dark, watching the man I loved sleep peacefully, while a stranger's name flashed on his nightstand, I realized that my fairy tale was actually a mystery, and I was the last person to find out the truth, to understand how I ended up standing by the side of the bed, shaking with fear and confusion. I have to take you back to the beginning. Not the very beginning of our relationship, but the beginning of the end. It started in autumn, the season when everything changes color and the air turns cold. My husband, Mark, had just received a promotion at his marketing firm. We were both ecstatic. We celebrated with a fancy dinner at our favorite Italian restaurant, clinking our glasses of sparkling water and dreaming about our future. "I'm going to be leading a new team," Mark told me, his eyes shining with excitement. "It's a huge project, Claire. It's going to require a lot of late nights, but it will be worth it." I smiled at him, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "I'm so proud of you, Mark. You've worked so hard for this. Don't worry about the late nights. I support you completely." I meant every word. I was a supportive wife. I worked as a graphic designer from home, so my schedule was flexible. I was happy to take on more responsibilities around the house while he focused on his career. However, looking back now, I realize that I was perhaps too trusting, too naive. I didn't see the warning signs because I didn't want to see them. A few weeks into his new role, Mark started mentioning a new name: Sarah. Sarah had the funniest idea for the campaign today. He said one evening, while we were washing dishes, "Sarah is really efficient. She organized the whole filing system in 2 hours," he mentioned a few days later. At first, I didn't mind. I was glad he had competent colleagues. I imagined Sarah as an older woman, perhaps someone motherly and professional, or maybe a young intern who was eager to learn. I never asked for details because I trusted Mark implicitly. Why would I be jealous of a coworker? We had been married for 7 years. We were solid. But then the atmosphere in our house began to shift. It wasn't sudden. It was a slow, creeping change, like a fog rolling in over the ocean. Mark became more protective of his phone. In the past, he used to leave his phone on the kitchen counter or on the coffee table while he showered. We knew each other's passcodes. We had nothing to hide. Suddenly, the phone was always in his pocket. If he went to the bathroom, the phone went with him. If he took a shower, the phone was in the bathroom with the door locked. When we sat on the sofa to watch a movie, he would place the phone face down on the cushion next to him, his hand hovering near it. as if he were guarding a secret treasure. "Is everything okay with work?" I asked him one night, trying to sound casual. "You seem glued to your phone lately." Mark stiffened. He looked at me with a mixture of annoyance and surprise. "I told you, Claire. It's the new project. The clients are very demanding. I have to be available." "Okay," I said, retreating. "I just miss you. Even when you are here, you feel far away." He sighed and gave me a quick, distracted kiss on the forehead. "I'm sorry, babe. It's just stressful right now. Once this project is over, things will go back to normal. I promise." I wanted to believe him. I desperately wanted to believe him. But my intuition, that quiet inner voice that we often ignore, was starting to scream. The first major red flag appeared a month later. It was a Tuesday evening, and Mark had come home late again. He smelled of rain and something else, a perfume that was definitely not mine. It was floral, sweet, and lingering. "You smell nice," I said, trying to keep my voice steady as I hugged him. "Did you change your cologne?" He pulled away quickly, almost as if my touch burned him. "No," he said sharply. "I must have walked through the perfume section at the department store on my way to the train. Or maybe it was someone on the subway. It was crowded today." It was a plausible excuse. But his eyes didn't meet mine. He hurried to the bedroom to change his clothes, and when he came back out, he threw his shirt directly into the washing machine. Mark never did the laundry. He usually left his clothes on the floor or in the hamper. That night, we ate dinner in silence. The silence wasn't comfortable anymore. It was heavy and suffocating. I tried to make conversation. "So, how is the team doing?" "How is Sarah?" I asked. Mark dropped his fork. The metal clattered loudly against the ceramic plate. "Why do you keep asking about Sarah?" he snapped. I was taken aback. "I just asked how your team is. You talk about her a lot." "She is just a friend, Claire. She's a colleague. We work together, that's it. Stop trying to make something out of nothing. You're being paranoid." Paranoid. That word cut me deep. Was I being paranoid? Was I letting my insecurities ruin our marriage? I apologized to him that night. I told him I was just tired and stressed. I took the blame because I was terrified of being the jealous wife. I wanted to be the cool wife, the one who understood. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it was growing fast. The turning point came 2 weeks later. It was our anniversary. I had planned a romantic evening at home. I cooked his favorite meal, roast chicken with rosemary potatoes, and bought a ridiculously expensive bottle of red wine. I wore a new dress, a deep blue one that he used to love. Mark came home at 8:00 p.m. He looked exhausted. He didn't have flowers. He didn't have a card. In fact, he looked surprised to see the table set with candles. "Oh," he said, stopping in the hallway. "Is it a special occasion?" My heart sank into my stomach. "Mark, it's our anniversary." His face went pale. For a second, I saw genuine guilt in his eyes. "Oh my God. Claire, I am so sorry. I completely forgot. The project. The deadline is tomorrow." "It's okay," I lied. "It wasn't okay. Go get changed. We can still have a nice dinner." He sat down, and we ate. He drank more wine than usual. He was trying to be charming, trying to make up for his mistake, but his mind was clearly elsewhere. Every few minutes, his eyes would dart toward his pocket, checking for a vibration. "Go ahead," I said bitterly. "Check it." "No, it's fine," he said. "Mark, if it's work, just check it." "I'd rather you check it than stare at your pocket all night." He pulled out the phone. He read a message, and for a split second, a soft, genuine smile appeared on his face. It wasn't a stressed work smile. It was the kind of smile he used to give me when we were dating. Then he realized I was watching, and he quickly cleared his throat and typed a fast reply. "Who was that?" I asked. Just a notification," he lied. "Spam email." We went to bed early that night. He fell asleep almost instantly, the wine and the exhaustion taking over. I, however, lay awake. I stared at the ceiling, listening to the rhythm of his breathing. I felt lonely in my own bed. The man sleeping next to me felt like a stranger. Around 2:00 a.m., I woke up feeling thirsty. The room was pitch black. I sat up carefully, trying not to disturb him. As I turned to get out of bed, a light flashed on his nightstand. His phone lit up. Usually, his phone was on Do Not Disturb mode at night. He must have forgotten to switch it on because of the wine. My heart began to hammer against my ribs. I knew I shouldn't look. I knew that looking was a violation of privacy. But I also knew that if I didn't look, I would never know the truth. I held my breath. I reached out my hand, my fingers trembling, and picked up the phone. The screen was bright in the darkness, hurting my eyes. There, on the lock screen, was a message notification. It wasn't from a number. It was from a name saved as Sarah Work. The preview of the message was visible. It didn't say, "Did you finish the report?" It didn't say, "The client is meeting us at 9. It read, "I had such a wonderful time today. I hate that you have to go home to her. I miss you already. Good night, love." The world stopped. I read it again. "I hate that you have to go home to her." That her was me. I was the her. I was the obstacle. I was the inconvenience. I felt a physical blow to my chest, as if someone had punched me. The air left my lungs. My hands shook so badly that I almost dropped the phone. I stared at the man sleeping next to me. He looked so peaceful, so innocent. How could he sleep? How could he lie next to me, in the bed we bought together, while texting another woman that he missed her? I put the phone back on the nightstand. I didn't scream. I didn't wake him up. I was in shock. I walked out of the bedroom and went into the kitchen. I sat on the cold floor, pulling my knees to my chest, and I cried. I cried silently, tears streaming down my face, hot and fast. He told me she was just a friend. He made me feel crazy for doubting him. He made me feel guilty for asking. And all this time, he was betraying me. I stayed in the kitchen until the sun came up. I watched the sky turn from black to gray to pink. With the morning light, a strange sense of clarity washed over me. The sadness was still there, heavy and crushing, but it was joined by anger. Cold, hard anger. I made coffee. I set 2 mugs on the table. When Mark walked into the kitchen at 7:00 a.m., scratching his head and yawning. He looked confused to see me fully dressed. "Morning, babe," he said, reaching for the coffee. "You're up early. Couldn't sleep." I looked at him. I really looked at him. I looked at the wrinkles around his eyes, the way his hair stood up on one side. I used to love those details. Now, they just looked like the features of a liar. "Who is Sarah?" I asked calmly. Mark froze with the mug halfway to his mouth. "Claire, not this again. We talked about this. She is a call." "Don't," I interrupted. My voice was low but firm. "Do not lie to me, not anymore." "I'm not lying," he shouted, suddenly defensive. He slammed the mug down, coffee splashing onto the table. "You are obsessed. You are being irrational. I can't believe you don't trust me." "I saw the text, Mark," I said. The silence that followed was deafening. The color drained from his face. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. "I saw the text she sent you at 2:00 a.m., I continued, maintaining eye contact. "She said she hates that you have to come home to me. She called you love." Mark slumped into the chair. He put his head in his hands. For a moment, I expected him to beg for forgiveness. I expected him to cry, to say it was a mistake, to say he would end it. Instead, he looked up at me with a tired expression. "It just happened, Claire. I didn't plan it. We just connected." "You connected?" I repeated, incredulous. "You are married, Mark. We built a life together." "I know," he said quietly. "But she understands me. She understands the pressure I'm under. With you, I feel like I always have to pretend to be perfect. With her, I can just be myself." His words hurt more than the text message. He was blaming me. He was twisting the narrative to make it seem like my fault. "So, it's my fault that you cheated." I stood up. "Because I expected you to be a decent husband." "I'm not saying it's your fault," he muttered. "I'm just saying I haven't been happy for a long time." "You seemed happy when we booked our vacation last month," I countered. "You seemed happy when we bought the new car." "You are a coward, Mark. You wanted the safety of this marriage and the excitement of a girlfriend. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too." I didn't wait for his response. I walked into the bedroom and grabbed the suitcase from the closet. I started packing. I didn't pack everything, just clothes, my laptop, and my essentials. I moved with mechanical precision. Fold, pack, zip. Mark stood in the doorway, watching me. "Where are you going?" "I'm going to stay with my sister," I said. "I want you to be gone by the time I come back, to get the rest of my things. Claire, wait. Can't we talk about this? We can go to counseling. We can fix this. I stopped and looked at him one last time. There is nothing to fix, Mark. You broke it. You didn't just break my trust. You broke my reality. You looked me in the eye for months and lied. I can never believe a word you say again. Leaving the apartment was the hardest thing I have ever done. As I closed the front door, I felt like I was leaving my own skin behind. I got into a taxi and gave the driver my sister's address. As the car pulled away, I watched our building disappear in the rearview mirror. The next few weeks were a blur of pain. I felt like I was grieving a death. In a way, I was. The death of my marriage, the death of my future, the death of the woman I used to be. I spent days lying on my sister's sofa, staring at the wall, unable to eat or sleep. I replayed every conversation, every memory, trying to find the moment where I lost him. My sister, Lisa, was my rock. She didn't force me to talk. She just made me tea, brushed my hair, and sat with me in the silence. You will get through this, Claire, she told me one rainy afternoon. It feels like the end of the world, but it isn't. You are stronger than you think. I don't feel strong, I whispered. I feel stupid. How could I not know? How could I be so blind? You weren't blind, Lisa said fiercely. You were faithful. You trusted him because you are a good person. Don't let his bad actions change who you are. Slowly, very slowly, the fog began to lift. I started working again. I forced myself to go for walks in the park. I noticed the leaves on the trees, the crisp air, the sound of birds. I realized that the world had kept turning, even though my heart was broken. One afternoon, about 2 months after I left, I decided to meet Mark to sign the divorce papers. We met at a neutral location, a coffee shop downtown. When I saw him, I was surprised by my own reaction. I didn't feel the sharp sting of love, nor the burning heat of anger. I just felt pity. He looked tired. His shirt was wrinkled. He looked like a man who was trying to hold everything together and failing. "How are you?" he asked awkwardly as we sat down. "I'm getting better," I said honestly. "I'm finding myself again." He looked down at his coffee. "Sarah and we broke up." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yeah." It turns out that a relationship built on sneaking around isn't very stable when it becomes real. He let out a dry, humorless laugh. "She said I had too much baggage." "I'm sorry to hear that," I said, and I realized I actually meant it. Not because I cared about his relationship, but because he had thrown away everything for something so temporary. "I miss you, Claire," he said, his voice cracking. "I made the biggest mistake of my life. Is there any chance?" I looked at him, and I remembered the text message. "I hate that you have to go home to her." "No, Mark," I said gently. "There is no chance. You set me free. It hurt like hell, but you set me free. I realized that I deserve someone who doesn't hide his phone. I deserve to be the only one And more importantly, I realized I can be happy on my own. I signed the papers and pushed them across the table. "Take care of yourself," I said. I walked out of that coffee shop and stepped into the sunlight. The city was bustling with life. Cars were honking, people were talking, and music was playing from a nearby shop. I took a deep breath, filling my lungs with fresh air. For a long time, I defined myself as Mark's wife. Then, for a while, I defined myself as the victim of his betrayal. But as I walked down the street that day, I realized I was neither of those things. I was Claire. I was a designer. I was a sister. I was a friend. I was a woman who had walked through the fire and came out the other side, not burnt, but refined. The title of my story was, "He Told Me She Was Just a Friend." It's a common story, unfortunately. But the subtitle of my life is no longer about him or her. It is about me. If you are listening to this, and you have that nagging feeling in your gut, if you see the phone turned face down, if you feel the distance growing, don't ignore it. Don't let fear keep you in the dark. The truth might hurt. It might shatter your world for a moment, but it is the only thing that can set you free. And believe me, life on the other side of the truth is beautiful. It is honest, and it is yours.